Welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Kiki.
And I'm Mike. And today, what are we doing?
We are talking about an artist.
Ooh, an artist.
A singer.
Okay, I like this so far. Is it someone I know?
I'm not sure, but maybe I'm a little older. I'm not too familiar with her music.
Okay.
Are you familiar with her music?
I don't know who we're talking about.
Okay.
Give me a name, please.
It starts with a C.
Celine Dion.
No.
Okay, phew.
Camila Cabello.
Oh, Camila Cabello.
Camila Cabello.
Oh, yeah, sure, I know her. She's very famous. She had that song Havana.
That's right. That's the only song I know.
She used to date Shawn Mendes, and then they broke up, and then they got together, and then they broke up, and then they got together, and so on and so on and so on.
Well, you definitely know more about that.
And I think they're friends now. So yeah, I've definitely heard of her.
Do you have a favorite song?
Well, I mean, the Havana was a big hit a few years ago, right? It was kind of like the song of the summer type of thing. And I'm sure I've seen her on some TV shows performing and stuff. Okay. I can't tell you that I have one of her records in my collection, but that actually might be because I don't know if I've seen one of her records here in Taiwan to buy. But yeah, definitely. Put it this way, if her song was on the radio, I wouldn't go la 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 or change the channel. I think she's quite fine.
Okay, well, that's why it's really interesting that her song Havana was really famous.
Yes.
Because she represents Havana.
Really?
Yeah, in some ways, because she is Havana's heartbeat.
Really? Well, already I've learned something. There you go. So we have that interesting title, Camila Cabello, Havana's Heartbeat. I always thought she was American and she just had a song titled Havana. Apparently that might not be true, and I'm sure there's a whole lot more interesting things, interesting information that we will be learning about her. So let's do that now.
Camila Cabello was born in Havana, Cuba in 1997, but she moved several times between Cuba and Mexico before arriving in the US. These frequent moves allowed her to experience a mix of cultures that would later influence her music. Her love of singing started early, and she would often sing in her childhood basement when her parents were away.
Okay, so today we will be talking about part one of our article, Camila Cabello, Havana's Heartbeat.
Okay, let's get into it. So Camila Cabello, it says, Camila Cabello was born in Havana, Cuba, in 1997, but she moved several times between Cuba and Mexico before arriving in the US. Already some very interesting information and facts there. She was not born in America. She was born in Havana, Cuba, so born in a Spanish-speaking country. And then she moved from Cuba to Mexico, another Spanish-speaking country, several times before ending up in the US. I wonder what was going on there. Maybe her dad was like working in business or for the government and he had to travel or something. But still, that's a very unusual, very special and interesting childhood that already gave her a lot of experience and exposure to different cultures and music and ways of living. What a lucky thing for a young person.
That's right. These frequent moves allowed her to experience a mix of cultures that would later influence her music.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, because we have the Cuban culture, the Mexican culture, and then eventually some American culture.
Of course, sure.
Okay, so here we have the adjective frequent, and frequent means basically something that happens often in a short period of time, or something that will happen over and over again. Okay, so frequent in this case for Camila is her moving constantly. She moved a lot. It was very frequent. Okay, here we have an example sentence. Jennifer is a frequent customer at this bookstore.
All right, let's go over to Hanny. She is our frequent friend, and she often has a lot of things to tell us that are very interesting. So let's spend some time with her.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。这次要介绍的人物是当红歌手卡蜜拉 （Camila Cabello）。卡蜜拉1997年出生于古巴哈瓦那，但是在抵达美国之前，她曾经多次在古巴和墨西哥之间搬来搬去，频繁的搬迁让她体验了多元的文化融合，这在后来也影响到她的音乐风格。好，单字 frequent。Frequent 是形容频繁的、经常的。那这边有2个重点，第一个是主词加动词 before 或 after 加上动词 ing 的句型。好，当连接词 before 或 after 引导的时间副词子句，它的主词跟主要子句的主词相同时，我们就可以把副词子句这个主词省略，然后把主动动词改为 VING。举例来说，Derek moved to Canada after he graduated from college. 简化之后可以变成 Derek moved to Canada after graduating from college. Derek 大学毕业后搬到了加拿大。好，第2个重点是 allow somebody to 加上原形动词，表示让某人得以做某事。allow 在这边是指让、允许。要接续另外一个动词的话，必须用不定词 to be 的形式表达。例如 working from home allows him to spend more quality time with his family. 居家办公让他能够有更多的时间陪伴家人，共度美好时光。好，这回到课文中。
Okay, we are back. So here's Camila Cabello as a young person. Cuba, Mexico, Cuba, US, Cuba. She's traveling around a lot, getting exposed to different music and culture and all sorts of things as she lives in different places. Very cool. And then it says her love of singing started early, and she would often sing in her childhood basement when her parents were away. Was she that bad? She had to wait until the house was empty. I guess that was just when she could really sing what she wanted to sing, and her parents were like, shut up, or something like
Maybe
that.
she was shy.
Maybe she was shy. That's possible too. Or maybe she was just really loud. But this is when she was a young person, and that period of time when you are a child, we can refer to that period of time as your childhood. All right, so your childhood, it could be from when you were born, but maybe from when you're a little bit older, 3, 4 years old, right up until you're kind of in high school. Once you become an adult or an adult around 18 years old, that's when your childhood will usually end. But think of the times when you were a kid, when you were a child, when you were a young person going to school, living at home, living with your parents and brothers and sisters, all of that before you go off and begin your grown-up or adult life. The early stages of your life will be your childhood. For example, Tracy's childhood home was in the countryside near a small river. We could also say the home that Tracy lived in when she was a child was near this river.
Right. So Camila, when she was a child, in her childhood, she would practice singing in her parents' basement.
Okay.
And I think that's where a lot of famous artists and bands started.
My band used to practice in the basement. Yeah.
So what's a basement? Basement is basically any space that is underground. Okay, so a lot of, maybe not, well, some homes in Taiwan will have basements, but not a lot. But in other countries, there are houses with an extra room in the underground, and that's where they would store things or put their washing machines or even have their band equipment down there.
Keep all sorts of stuff in the basement.
Right, and it's a good place to practice because you're not really disrupting the rest of the house or the neighborhood. Right?
Not too much.
Not too much. It'll be better than practicing in the garage.
True, or in the living room or the kitchen or somewhere like that, yes.
Okay, so an example sentence is, we store old furniture in our basement.
All right, let's go over to Hanny. She's going to tell us good stuff. Then we'll be back with more from Camila Cabello.
课文提到卡蜜拉对唱歌的热爱从很小就开始了。父母不在家的时候，她常常在小时候家里的地下室唱歌。好，单字 childhood。Childhood 是名词，表示童年时期。Basement 是指地下室，所以他说的 childhood basement 就是指小时候家里的地下室。Kiki 老师说，在地下室练唱练团，可能比较不会打扰到家人或邻居。那我们用到动词 disrupt，D-I-S-R-U-P-T 这个字，它表示扰乱、中断或是打断。那接回课文中。
All right, so we've heard all about her childhood singing in the basement because she was not good enough to sing above ground. No, that's not the reason why. It was probably just quiet and peaceful down there. But we've learned a little bit about her interesting childhood. We'll be back with more after we check out the second part of the article.
Camila's music career began when she competed on the X Factor USA in 2012. During the show, the girl group Fifth Harmony was formed, and Camila became one of its members. The group quickly grew famous, and hits like Worth It made it a name as one of the most successful girl groups of its time. During her time as a member of Fifth Harmony, Camila began to write her own songs and explore independent music projects. Finally, she decided to leave Fifth Harmony and released her debut album, Camila, in 2018. The album included Havana, a chart-topping single that helped her gain millions of new fans and the status of a promising new artist.
Welcome back. We learned that Camila, she was practicing singing in her childhood in the basement of her parents' home.
Clearly had a passion for music from a very young age.
Camila's music career began when she competed on the X Factor USA in 2012. The X Factor is a television show, and it's basically a talent show. People try to get on this show to show what kind of cool things they can do. It could be singing, it could be magic.
Oh, that's true. It's different from like American Idol or The Voice, which are just singing shows.
Well, I didn't know that Camila, she competed in the X Factor USA.
I found recently that people either come out of a talent show or they post videos on YouTube singing, and those are the ways you kind of get famous these days. It seems a lot of people have come through that. Actually, One Direction.
Oh, that's
right.
You
know, like Harry Styles and all those guys.
And they were X Factor.
I think they came through the X Factor UK in various similar way.
Oh, well, but good point that you're bringing up, Mike.
Okay.
She did not compete on the show alone.
Oh.
During the show, the girl group Fifth Harmony was formed, and Camila became one of its members.
Interesting. So this was very much like with One Direction, right? You had all these guys on the show alone as a solo singer trying to be like the next Bieber or something like that. But someone on the show was like, hey, if we put you together like NSYNC or like BTS or one of those boy bands, one of those groups, you'll be even more famous. So yes, this is one of the ways her career began. And when your career begins, that means you're working. You might learn how to do a job, like going to medical school or law school to be a doctor or a lawyer, but only when you leave school and kind of go out into the world and get that job and work and make a paycheck and do stuff like that, be a working person. That is your career. And a career is often something you might have trained for, and also something that you might focus on and do for much or the rest of your life, right? If you're always kind of hopping from one job to another, and one time you're a taxi driver, and then you work in a restaurant, and then you work in a store, that's not really a career. But if you're trained to be a scientist or work as an economist or an accountant or a doctor, a lawyer, you know, that kind of thing, engineer, that could be your career, your working life. For example, my brother has had a very successful career as an astronaut. He was the first person to walk on Saturn. That's not true.
Okay, well, we know that she started her career by competing in a talent show.
Yeah, right.
Right?
X
So
Factor.
the verb here is to compete. And when you are competing with someone, you're basically trying to become the winner of something.
You're playing against them.
And we have lots of competitions that people can compete in. And you're basically trying to show that you are the best at doing this thing. right? And here we have an example sentence. Alicia hopes to compete on a TV singing show.
Oh, okay. So she's going to go on the show. There'll be other singers. At the end, some of them will move on. Some of them will go home. And at the end, there'll be a champion, number 1 gold medal winner. And that's is when you finish competing because we found out who is the best. Let's get back to Camila Cabello. So, Camila Cabello. So they put her together with some of the other singers on the X Factor USA, and it worked pretty well. The group quickly grew famous or became famous, and hits like Worth It made it a name as one of the most successful girl groups of its time. Wow, so they were very, very successful. Of course, this is after the Spice Girls and things like that. So we're not comparing them to those ones, but for their time, 10, 15 years ago, they were very, very popular. Very, very cool. You know who else was in a very successful girl group?
Who?
Not Hanny.
Oh.
Let's go talk to her now, though.
卡蜜拉的音乐生涯是从2012年参加 X 音速美国版比赛开始的。因为这个节目，女子团体 Fifth Harmony 5家人成立了。那卡蜜拉是成为其中一员。这个团体迅速走红，像 Worth It 等等热门歌曲，让他们奠定了当代最成功女子团体之一的名声。好，单字 career 表示职业生涯，或者是指长期的职业事业。Compete 是动词，表示比赛竞争。那这边还有一个重点是要介绍 named 的不同意思。首先 name 它可以指名誉、名声，常常用单数表示。例如 Daphne has made a name for herself as an influencer. Daphne 以网红身份出名。第二个 name 可以指名人、声誉好的人，那它是可数名词。例如 Taylor Swift is one of the biggest names in the music industry.Taylor Swift 是音乐界最知名的人物之一。那么第三个 name 可以指名字或名称，我们可以用到 by the name of 加名词来表达叫做什么什么名字。举例来说 Once upon a time, there lived a young man by the name of Jacob. 从前有一位年轻人名叫 Jacob。介华课文中。
Okay, we are back. So we're learning about Camila Cabello, a successful singer in her own right as a solo performer, but started off in a group. This is like Harry Styles, right? This is like Timberlake, Justin Timberlake. They all started in groups and then went solo.
Yeah.
Okay.
So during her time as a member of Fifth Harmony, Camila began to write her own songs and explore independent music projects.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is interesting because that's when you start to see an artist, she's starting to feel like she wants to go solo.
Ah, okay. There's great power in being in a group, but of course you can't always do exactly what you want. You have to fit into the group. So yeah, I could see how as an artist, if you like this kind of music, but they all like a different kind, that could be frustrating, right? You could feel like there's all sorts of things you don't have the chance to do. In the same way that if I'm a chef in a French restaurant, but I really want to make sushi, I might not be happy, cooking a kind of food or singing a kind of music that I'm not really passionate about. So finally, it says she decided to leave Fifth Harmony, which is a big risk, right? A big challenge, and released her debut album, Camila, in 2018. That would be her debut solo album, because I assume Fifth Harmony as a group had already released albums, but her debut, that's her very first album, as herself, that's why we would call it a solo album that was released in 2018. When we release something, we let it go. So often we might use this when thinking of animals. If you find a wild animal and it's hurt, you might take it to a doctor or an animal hospital. They make sure it gets all better, it heals, and then eventually you will let that animal go back into the wilderness. You will release that animal, let it go, let it be free. We can also, though, use this with different types of entertainment and media. When a new book is available to buy, when a new movie is now in the theater so we can go see it, when your favorite artist is like, I have a new CD or a new record or just new music that I'll put for you to download, and it will be available on this day. It's new and it will be fresh and it will now be there for you to enjoy. they're releasing that music, like letting it out there into the world for everyone to watch or listen to or read or just to enjoy. For example, my favorite band will release new music next week. I'm so excited.
Okay, so we're talking about Camila's debut solo album.
2018.
Yeah, that's right. The album included Havana, a chart-topping single that helped her gain millions of new fans and the status of a promising new artist. So when she was in Fifth Harmony, they sounded great together, but people couldn't see Camila as a person, as an individual, hear her voice. But now, because of this one song. Like, I don't listen to her music.
Okay.
And you don't really listen to it either. But we both know this song.
Absolutely. If it came on the radio, I would definitely be able to identify it. And yeah, that must have been extremely exciting. And also...
I'm singing it. Sorry, I'm singing it.
You're singing it now. And I was definitely aware of Havana and Camila Cabello as the singer. But I think I didn't really know that, that's the girl from Fifth Harmony. Because they'd had some hits and then she had that big hit. But I didn't kind of know that this was the same person. So I think a lot of people discovered that at around the same time. Let's go to Hanny and we'll learn more from her and then we'll be back.
Mike 老师刚刚说，卡蜜拉本身就是一位成功的独唱歌手。老师用到 in one's own right 可以表达靠自己的努力特色，凭一己之力。老师还用到 solo S-O-L-O， 它可以形容独唱的、独演的或是单独的、独自的。好，那课文提到，在5家人时期，卡蜜拉有开始创作自己的歌曲，探索独立音乐计划。那最终，她决定要离开5家人，在2018年发行个人首张专辑。专辑当中有收录排行榜冠军单曲 Havana。那这首歌帮助她赢得数百万的新粉丝，成为一位前景看好的新人。好，单字 release。Release 是动词，可以表达发行、发售。那文中有用到 debut album， 它表示首张专辑、出道专辑。Promising 则是形容前景看好的、充满希望的。接华课文中。
Okay, guys, that's all the time we have for today, but don't worry, we're only halfway through telling the interesting story of Camila Cabello. We have reached her big #1 song, Havana, and I think it really was, like, when we say #1, we're not just saying popular. I think it was actually like #1 in many different countries around the world.
And for a long time.
It was one of those summertime hits that you just heard all the time, everywhere you went. So that was a huge success, but we're only halfway through telling her story. So there's a whole lot more to learn and enjoy, and we're going to be doing that with you guys, hopefully, back here tomorrow. Until then, adios.
Camila Cabello was born in Havana, Cuba in 1997, but she moved several times between Cuba and Mexico before arriving in the US. These frequent moves allowed her to experience a mix of cultures that would later influence her music. Her love of singing started early, and she would often sing in her childhood basement when her parents were away. Camila's music career began when she competed on the X Factor USA in 2012. During the show, the girl group Fifth Harmony was formed, and Camila became one of its members. The group quickly grew famous, and hits like Worth It made it a name as one of the most successful girl groups of its time. During her time as a member of Fifth Harmony, Camila began to write her own songs and explore independent music projects. Finally, she decided to leave Fifth Harmony and released her debut album, Camila, in 2018. The album included Havana, a chart-topping single that helped her gain millions of new fans and the status of a promising new artist.
最后，我们来复习今天课文里的单字文法。单字的部分有 frequent 形容词，形容频繁的、经常的。childhood 是名词，表示童年、童年时期。basement 名词，表示地下室。再看到下一个单字 career 是名词，表示职业生涯、长期的职业事业。好，那下一个单字是 compete 动词，表示比赛、竞争。release动词表示发行、发售。那文法部分，我们第一个学到主词加动词 before 或 after 加上动词 ing 的句型。那连接词 before 或 after 引导时间副词子句，当这个副词子句的主词跟主要子句的主词相同的话，我们就可以把副词子句的主词省略，然后把主动动词改为动词 ing。好，来看下一个重点 ，allow somebody to 加原形动词，这表示让什么得以做某事。第三个，我们学到 name 的不同意思。第一个可以指名誉、名声。第二个，它可以指名人或是声誉好的人。第三个，它也可以指名字或名称。以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
Winnie, are you ready to see some penguins?
Oh, I am so excited. I love emperor penguins.
No, today we're not going to be seeing any penguins from Antarctica. Instead, these penguins are from more of a temperate zone here at the Penguin House.
Oh, well, let's go check it out.
Look at those king penguins,
They're waddling. And look at the flippers. They're like stretching out their flippers so that they can balance.
Look at the way they waddle from left to right. They look so silly and clumsy. Winnie, look at these penguins. They're huddling.
They're so cute.
Winnie, do you know why they huddle?
Are they telling my secrets?
No. Penguins huddle because they're trying to conserve heat by staying close together, and they're also trying to protect each other from strong winds.
So, what did we learn today?
Well, we learned that not all penguins come from Antarctica, from such a cold, cold place. Some penguins actually experience different seasons.
Well, that's all for today. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Send us a DM or an email if there's something you want to say in English but you just don't know how. Kiki, is there anything you want to say?
I will waddle away. Kiwi
Kiwi later.